Dr. Stanley K. Ridgley is expert on pervasive leftist radicalism in higher education. He's stopping by to chat about his new book, DEI Exposed: How the Biggest Con of the Century Almost Toppled Higher Education. Welcome to Saving America. This is your host, Dr. David D. Schein. Dr. Stanley K. Ridgley is a clinical full professor of management at Drexel University's LeBeau College of Business. He holds a doctorate and master's in international relations, security, and the Soviet Union from Duke University, and an international MBA from Temple University's Fox School of Business. He's a former military intelligence officer, and he received the George S. Patton Award for Leadership from the 7th Army NCO Academy. In addition to his teaching, Dr. Ridgley lectures widely in the United States and internationally. He's a frequent contributor to the national media, including Newsmax and American Greatness. In 2022, he was a guest on Saving America to talk about his book, Brutal Minds: The Secret World of Leftist Thought Reform in Our Universities. He is here today to talk about his new book, DEI Exposed: How the Biggest Con of the Century Almost Toppled Higher Education. And we welcome him for his return appearance on Saving America.
Well, it's great to be here, David. Always good to see you. We've had quite the relationship going on, and quite a lot has happened since our first meeting years ago. And I thank you for the opportunity.
Well, it wasn't that long ago. It was 2022. It just seems like yesterday. Yeah, as you know, we ask 3 questions in an effort to give our audience a chance to get a view behind the scenes of your book, past the cover. And the first question is, how do you define the term DEI? Is the concept of DEI at fault, or is the way the liberals running higher education have applied it?
Well, there are 2 aspects to the acronym DEI, which stands, of course, for diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is a very benign sounding acronym. And a lot of people sign on to this because they believe it means falsely that it means, oh, well, it's just creating a level playing field. It means giving an equal shot at the brass ring for everyone. It means it's just teaching about race. It's just teaching about slavery. And as far as our higher education goes and certain corporate trainings goes, it's not it at all. In fact, I've just defined what it is not. What is it? Well, DEI, if you want to look at how it's actually applied on the college campuses, going beyond what they say it is, we find it is a noxious doctrine or ideology that basically divides human beings into 2 categories, and 2 categories only: villains and victims, oppressors and oppressed, exploiters and exploited, evil and good. And these categories are based entirely on race. Everything else is subsumed below the categories of race: white versus non-white. And of course, the white is villainous, and of course, non-white are the victims, regardless, irrespective of personal history, irrespective of lived experience, irrespective of your roots, irrespective of where you're from, what your personal experience in your family entails, irrespective of religion. The defining characteristic is race. And all of this, DEI, exists under the umbrella that we live in an incorrigibly, irredeemably racist America that is riven with white supremacy culture. That, in essence, of course, is problematic, this fake white supremacy culture. And this is what is propounded on the college campus all the time, 24/7. This is the reality of DEI as it is practiced. It isn't this benign, anodyne, noble sounding, moral sounding notion that, it's just giving everyone a fair shot, the equal, the level playing field. No, it's none of those things. In essence, David, the proponents of DEI have handed usually good-hearted liberals an empty decanter. And they say, pour what you want to into this empty decanter. Pour your good feelings into it. Pour your vanity. Pour your virtue. Pour your assumptions about DEI into the decanter, and that will be DEI. So this is why proponents of DEI, you'll find on social media and in the university, are so virulent in their hatred of people who do not subscribe to this fake or this fraudulent notion of DEI. Why? Because people like myself are questioning DEI. I'm actually questioning their imaginary notion of what constitutes DEI, their narcissistic view of it, their personality that they have poured into this decanter. And this is why I find myself very, very briefly in a conversation with proponents of DEI who want to talk about the front stage version of it, the benign, imaginary, cosmic justice version of it, when I talk about, well, what's actually happening on the campuses? What do these people believe? And that is what I share with the audience in DEI Exposed. I expose all of this nonsense for the mysticism, the alchemy, the astrology, all of this nonsense for what it actually is in their own words. It's a very accessible book, and I think it's a really fun book too, because it's funny.
Now, I would say that the tide turning on DEI most likely was triggered by the Supreme Court rulings in the affirmative action cases that, which incidentally were not brought by white people. They were brought by Asian Americans who were being rejected at Harvard University because they were considered the privileged class along with white Americans. It's a fascinating situation because they are a minority in the American makeup. While the Asian community is rapidly growing, it is still far less than the number of Black Americans and even much further less than the number of Hispanic Americans. And it's interesting. Do you see any progress in higher education reform at this time? Any examples, good or bad? What are you seeing? And of course, you are at Drexel University. And since I went to Penn undergrad, unfortunately, I know that Drexel and Penn, the two campuses, are contiguous. They literally, you don't know when you've crossed over generally between one and the other.
Yeah, that's right. And I feel sorry for you, David. I'm sorry to say you went to Penn. Penn has not gotten any better. Probably immeasurably worse, given the events of the last year and a half. I know that you asked me if there's been some change or there will be some reform, and I think yes, there is, because when you look at my previous book, Brutal Minds, I say in that book that university presidents and the cadre at university, senior leadership, understand only one language that has two venues of it, two veins of it. One is money, funding, and the other, and this is federal funding, but it's also donor money, and the other is bad publicity, which is linked to the other, because this bad publicity can cause a university's enrollment to plummet. It can cause donations to dry up. And no one wants to be in the position at a university going out and facing the public every day and trying to explain away the bad things happening at this particular campus. Well, the Trump administration, through the vehicle of the Department of Education, Office of Civil Rights, and the Department of Justice, are speaking the language that university presidents understand. And this is long overdue. Universities, as you know, have flown under the radar for far too many years, propounding this notional idea that the university hasn't changed. It's still a wonderful, yeasty marketplace of ideas where ideas can contend. No, it's none of those things. It's a crucible of indoctrination, where Marxists and basically, actually, literally communists who claim to be communists and are very proud of that, basically are formulating or creating cadres for the struggles of the future. Very prominent communist/Marxist theorist Frederick Jameson at Duke said this a number of years ago. That's what the universities are for, to create cadres of a vanguard for the revolutions of the future on the Marxist side, of course. So what we have now, however, is an expose of these folks, bureaucrats, presidents. They are being made to think what's actually happening and recognize what's actually happening on the college campuses. All the protestations and all the pronouncements prior to this were basically lip service to principles of academic freedom, principles of free speech, principles of inquiry, free inquiry. None of that matters worth a whit. Okay, what matters to the university presidents, what matters to the cadre, is the money coming in that supports these lavish lifestyles, that supports a bloated bureaucracy, of which DEI is a very prominent part. I'll give you University of Michigan as an example. Their bureaucracy, which is at the forefront, or I should say was at the forefront until they ended their program last week, at the forefront, having spent $250 million. That's $250 million since 2016 on DEI, with employing over 260 employees that are supposedly doing the work, whatever that consists of, doing the work of DEI. And we find that the top dog, the provost, assistant provost for DEI, her name is Tabia Shavu Sellers, was bringing in $417,000 in salary and benefits as the top.
Unbelievable.
Yes, in fact, University of Virginia, the top two DEI people bringing in more than $500,000 apiece. And
Absolutely.
the third ranking person, yes, the third ranking person is bringing in $405,000. So you effectively have $1.5 million going to three people in the UVA, University of Virginia, DEI hierarchy. What are you getting for that $1.5 million, especially when you serve as contradistinction to the governor of of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin, bringing in $175,000 a year to manage the affairs of the entire state.
I know, it's unreal. By the way, you do know that I have 2 graduate degrees from UVA.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And I can tell you, though, I am a member of the Jefferson Society.
Well, that's good.
And we are a bunch of conservative alumni who are trying to get the current president, who is not well respected by the responsible former business graduates. I went to the Darden School, and obviously one of the best MBA programs out there, along with Duke's MBA program, by the way. And so it's a very interesting situation. But anyway, so our third question is, what advice would you give to parents seeking to send their high school students to college at this time? I mean, I'm a grandparent at this point, but I sure as heck as a parent don't want my kids sent to be turned into commies or into, white hating people. I want them to love all different kinds of people and races.
I think your sentiment is shared by the vast majority of people in this country, and want nothing to do with this noxious, toxic ideology propounded by DEI people. I think one of the biggest things that a parent can do, and I'm going to give several, the biggest things is to recognize that DEI is not benign, it's not harmless, it is a concerted assault on the students, and I mean all students, because it basically slots students and teaches them in these indoctrination sessions, teaches them that you're either a villain or you are a victim, whether you recognize it or not. If you're a villain, you're a white person, well, you have to confess your complicity in a white racist, white supremacist society. If you happen to be a minority, of course, people of color, that depends on the occasion. As you quite rightly mentioned, that Asian American students were part and parcel of this Supreme Court decision, Students for Fair Admissions, attacking Harvard for its racially discriminatory admissions policy. And so, depending on the circumstances, Asian Americans are considered people of color unless they butt against this notion that they're oppressed, in which case they become what is called white adjacent. And this indicates that they share in some uncertain way the privilege that is bequeathed to white folks. And so I think that parents need to understand that this is the reality of the college campus, that there are dozens upon dozens of people on every campus in America that subscribe to this DEI front stage, but basically also subscribe to the backstage noxious content of this binary worldview of evil and good, oppressors and oppressed, and want to teach this to college students, faculty, and staff as well. And the best thing to do is to understand this. Students should understand this as well. Brutal Minds, my book, and DEI Exposed act as a wonderful companion volume, because DEI Exposed is a continuation of that into the bizarre, mysticized world of DEI. And it tells you how to recognize when you are in a threat situation. Now, the long-term reformation of our universities is going to be just that. It's a long-term project. But what you can do right now as a student or a parent of a student is recognize the dangers, not necessarily opt out, not necessarily not go to a place like Columbia. Well, Columbia, maybe you don't want to go. Okay, but go to a place like Penn, you go to a place like Duke, you go to a place like Harvard, you go to a place like Drexel. Recognize that there are things that you can do to fight against these folks. And we're not talking about, literally chest thumping and chest bumping with the bad guys on the campus. It means understanding how to emasculate them through your lack of participation in what is patently illegal activity on the case of people who are trying to indoctrinate you and conduct it's called human subject experimentation, and people are protected from the Office of Human Research Protections, a federal agency. And once you understand your rights as a human being, your rights as an American citizen on the college campus, increasingly so at private schools like Drexel and like Penn, once you understand that and understand that there are avenues of complaint that the Department of Education has just set up, where you can take one of your complaints, if you're not happy with what's going on, take it straight to the federal government. And the federal government has been incredibly responsive, as I think you know, up to this point. And I foresee more of that. And so there are avenues of I would say complaint, of communication, not necessarily complaint, but a communication that things are not right at XYZ school. And we want you to come look at what we're doing here and find out, discover through the process of transparency, if indeed there is something untoward happening, and then do something about it.
And of course, one of the most unfortunate parts, and I'll just speak for myself, Dr. Ridgley, is I came from the wrong side of the tracks. I was oldest of 7 kids from a listed military family. We had nothing. My parents, my mother had a GED. My dad, finished high school with a general high school degree. And my parents emphasized education. Education was the path forward. And I had set my sights on going to an Ivy League school. And when I got the full scholarship to Penn, by the way, I got a full scholarship to Duke and turned it down in favor of, oh my God, I'm getting into an Ivy. And I could also have gone to the honors program at the University of Virginia, didn't even apply for it because it was like, I'm shooting for the stars and this is, the path forward. And I think part of the unfortunate thing that we're facing as, in my case, grandparents, is that we're seeing some of the best known universities in the world, Harvard, Yale, and Penn, Columbia, and on the public side, University of Michigan, University of University of Virginia, Berkeley out in California, that these schools are the ones that have been most impacted by this incredible destruction. And so I think people are going to have to, really evaluate whether you want to go to, my sons went to for cost reasons, went to the community college for a couple of years and then went to different universities after that and worked out well. But generally speaking, I think parents also are going to have to do more before the kids get out of the household to make sure that they understand the value of capitalism and the importance of our true diverse society, which is we give everybody a fair chance.
You're exactly right on that, David. It's shopping around, and I certainly appreciate the community college route because people save a lot of money by doing that, and
Right.
then transfer to a 4-year college and get that very same degree, far less in debt than they otherwise would have been. I want to point out something that people really probably haven't thought about, but the problem comes with DEI for the same reason that Luigi Mangione decided to assassinate this Brian Thompson back on December 4th, and that is Luigi Mangione acted as an ideologue. He did what his ideology, anti-capitalist ideology, told him to do. This guy, Brian Thompson, that he didn't know and had not wronged Mangione at all. Mangione wasn't even a client or wasn't even a customer of the United States. And the fact that he decided to shoot this guy in the back, kill him, because that's what his ideology told him to do. It has nothing to do with Mangione's personal experience, which, by the way, was very privileged, being the son of wealthy parents. And so you look at people who will do what an ideology tells them to do. Of course, Mangione went to Penn Graduate School. He learned this ideology somewhere. And the fact is, you look at people burning Teslas, throwing fire bombs, they're doing what their ideology tells them to do. You look at people who are protesting and assaulting and threatening on the college campuses, threatening Jewish students, assaulting them, setting up encampments, trespassing, vandalism. They're doing what their ideology tells them to do, the decolonization riff. And then you look at people who at DEI, they're doing what their ideology tells them to do, dividing society and people into these two categories, irrespective of anything else about them. And then it's very paranoid, because if you and I walk down the street, we see someone coming towards us, it's a stranger, we don't know this person. We might see how they're dressed and make some sort of, preliminary judgment that way. But basically we're going to say, okay, either I won't even interact with this person, or I'll find out more about them. When a DEI person trained in DEI sees someone walking down the street toward them, they see either a villain or they see a victim, and they make a whole host of presumptions about that before they even speak to that person. And this is the binary, the Manichaean evil and good binary that these DEI people believe in. It's what they train young people into, this alternative reality, and then they say, behave according to this alternative reality, just like Luigi Mangione. It's just a matter of degree.
I do want to insert here, since I'm the attorney on the call, is that these are allegations against Luigi Mangione, and he is accused. He has recently been brought before. I understand Pam Bondi has announced that this is being identified as an interstate hate crime or something like that, and that they are going to seek the death penalty. Apparently, he has pled not guilty. However, in fairness, the evidence against him is rather overwhelming. There is videotape of the crime. There are eyewitnesses, because he did this in front of a hotel, not a private in a hotel room or some narrow corridor. He did it in the entrance to a hotel, a busy hotel on a busy street. And in fact, he could have injured many other innocent people. Background on Mangione, I just heard that he went to private school at K through 12, and he came from a privileged family. I believe he did both of his degrees at Penn in electrical engineering or something like that. And the person that he shot went to Iowa State University, not a person that we would associate with a privileged start. And it's interesting for me, because I am, in fairness, an Ivy Leaguer. And if somebody said, well, Dave, you're a white guy and you're an Ivy Leaguer, you're part of the privileged class. But I told you a few minutes ago about how I got there. And I didn't get there from the privileged class, I guarantee you. And in fact, at my high school, which was full of military dependents, we were my sister who followed me the next year, we were the first two honors graduates from the military housing project where we lived. The first two honors graduates back to back. And the advisors didn't know what to do with us. It was like, well, those kids don't usually go to Ivy League schools and stuff like that. So just this assumption that just because of the color of skin determines who you were. My best friend at the University of Pennsylvania was a Black artist who was 22 years my senior, and sadly passed away. Lifetime friends, stayed in touch with him and his wife, stayed in Philadelphia, the two of them. And he passed away about 5 years ago, and his wife, who of course I knew for the same length of time, passed away about 4 years ago. By the way, a mixed race couple. And back when that was really verboten. And that's the thing, is that people need to understand that you've got to make your own decisions in life, and you've got to relate to people as individuals, not as a class group. And it's interesting because of the way that they've twisted things that you would think would be the liberal philosophy would be giving everybody a fair shot.
Right. And this is why it's so perverse, this idea that, well, diversity, equity, inclusion means, oh, it's a come one, come all kind of thing, but we're going to judge you in advance based on immutable characteristics. I should say that equity and inclusion, I should say diversity, equity, and inclusion, the idea of inclusion and belonging, that's their latest phrase, inclusion and belonging. Colleges and universities exclude people all the time. at admissions time. They tell people they
Right.
don't belong all the time. And unless and until colleges go to an open admissions policy where everyone is, we want to include you. We want you to feel a sense of belonging here. Not say, okay, well, I'm the gatekeeper. I'm the enrollment management. I'm going to let you in, but I'm going to keep all of you people out. But once you get here, then we engage the inclusion and belonging aspects of our philosophy. There's so
And you know
many.
what?
Yeah.
We could start, we could do another half hour easily, but Dr. Stanley Ridgley, thank you again for joining us a second time here on Saving America. Tell our audience about how do they get more information about you and your couple books that you have out.
Well, I urge people to reach out to me on LinkedIn, do a search. I'm right there. And my books, DEI Exposed, is available on Amazon in 3 popular formats: in paperback, hardback, and Kindle. And it's got an Audible version coming out next week for sure.
Excellent.
It's going to be a super. I really love the narrator. I wish it was me. I wish it was you with a better voice than mine. But it's going to be absolutely fabulous. I look forward to listening to it in someone else's voice. But it's available on Amazon, and it's available on Barnes and Noble. And you can also go to my website, brutalminds.com, and you can see my previous book. And you can also read a little bit more about DEI Exposed. I think it's essential reading for understanding and cutting through the BS that we find in most of what's going on in the public media and what the press likes to say about DEI. And so that's my encouragement for your great audience out there. And thank you for the opportunity for being here.
This is Dr. David D. Schein. Thanks for joining me for this special edition of Saving America. Remember, a new Saving America show is aired on the Brushwood Media Network every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Listen on any of the 16 network stations, Apple or Google mobile app, Apple CarPlay, TuneIn, Smart Speaker, and all smart TVs. Find more information at the brushwoodmedianetwork.com. Please be sure to join us each week. We welcome and love your feedback from our growing audience.